This podcast is for the third question in my evaluation. What have you learned from your audience feedback? I will be showing and explaining how audience feedback has shaped the research and planning and production of our thriller film trailer Identity, from its original rough cuts to our final product. Before the actual production of Identity, we carried out many forms of audience research such as questionnaires, surveys and interviews, both as a group and individually, to gain further understanding of the genre we wanted to use and ways we could interpret this into our trailer and other auxiliary tasks, which are our poster and magazine. First off, we created a small questionnaire asking simple questions such as the audience's favourite genre and small personal things about them, before going on to ask specific questions to do with the thriller genre, such as associated colours, sounds, setting, etc. All the traditional conventions we needed to create when making a thriller trailer. We gave this to the majority of our media class, who alongside us have studied genre and conventions of that genre, so their response could be trusted. I then went on to create a survey via SurveyMonkey to gain a wider understanding from target audience members who knew much more about the specific genre of a thriller, as that was their favourite genre. This survey was very useful. As you can see, I carried these conventions on into my trailer, poster and magazine. For example, when I asked what colours do you associate with a thriller, I gave them an option of red, yellow, black, purple, blue and white. The majority of responses responded by saying black, blue and white, and I successfully used this audience feedback in all three of my products. In my poster and magazine, for my 3-colour rule, I chose black, blue and white as shown here, and also continued this theme in my trailer, as I have edited the majority of the footage to look dark and grim, also with a hint of blue. I also interviewed a few members of my target audience in college, continuing to ask these thriller-related questions that I have gone on to use in my trailer, magazine and poster. During the very early stages of our product, we also asked our target audience for their opinions on big aspects of our trailer, such as the name and the font this could be. I gave out audience questionnaires to a number of people in the category of our target audience, not just people in our media class though, to gain a wider perspective on such a big decision. We also used the social networking site Twitter to ask the audience for their opinions. Everyone agreed Identity and the basic title font, saying it was very thriller, murder mystery related and simple and effective. We continued asking questions and for opinions from our target audience throughout the research and planning and production of all three of our products. For example, with my poster, I asked 3 of my target audience members via the social media networking site Facebook what they thought of my film poster before uploading their responses onto the Prezi site and analysing them. From what I found, overall the responses to my Identity film poster were successful. They all recognised certain thriller genre themes and thought my poster was eye-catching. One of the responses was exactly what I intended, commenting on a possible murderer. The only slight concern was the half and half confusion of the genre, as one thought it was horror, the others thought it was thriller. Thriller and horror genres are very similar and share common traits and conventions such as low-key lighting. This response was very useful and something that I took on board, as I tried to tweak my poster slightly to make it seem less horror type to some people. With my magazine, again my target audience feedback started right at the beginning of the process. For example, I asked over Twitter ideas on my magazine name. Here is just one of the responses I was given, which is very positive, saying Final Cut fit well with the genre of film. Another example for audience feedback on my magazine is when I had almost finished my final product. I asked for some basic feedback on what they thought I could improve or what they liked about my magazine. One of the responses said that they loved the colour theme, text and style. However, the sticker and identity might be a little too big. This is something I had been thinking about after some feedback from my tutor also. Therefore, I made these changes on Photoshop, adjusting the size of identity, Murd has many faces, world exclusive and the sticker to make them clash less and my magazine seem less claustrophobic. I then went on to post this again back onto Twitter, getting a positive response saying that she loved the changes and how it looked very professional. Regarding my trailer, I also started my audience feedback from the very start of research and planning. For example, I posted some questions on Twitter saying, What sort of editing would you expect to see in a thriller, and where would you expect a thriller film to be set? All the responses I got were quite similar, and I have interpreted these responses into my trailer. Firstly, all three of my responses replied quick editing when asked what editing they expected to see in a trailer. I interpret this throughout the whole of my trailer, especially at the beginning through different straight cuts between different pieces of footage, like Danny talking on the webcam and the boy who has been murdered. Secondly, when asked where you would expect it to be set, they all said somewhere quite remote and isolated. In our trailer, we continue this trait by placing the murder in a quiet field, and then we haven't got many cast members either, so the whole trailer itself feels quite isolated. I also asked for audience feedback towards the end of the production of our trailer, posting a survey on SurveyMonkey, then uploading these responses to Flickr. I showed them a piece of footage that I had uploaded to YouTube, and from that, 100% of our target audience said that the genre of our trailer was a thriller, guessed the plot correctly, and said that they would go and see Identity in the cinema from this single advertisement. When I asked if they could give us any suggestions on how to improve our trailer, 2 people suggested the following: to add text in between clips and more characters if there was any. Both of these are really good suggestions that I have thought of, but the first one, due to unreliable casting, we had to cut down the cast, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, as when it comes to thriller genres and our particular plot, isolation can play a key theme. Furthermore, we thought that our trailer was pretty self explanatory, as shown by the 100% of them guessing the plot correctly. So it's not confusing, so we didn't really need any taglines running through the trailer, and we were happy with the size of it. However, I do have this text running through an additional sneak peek I made, which is up on my blog, which the taglines are actually a substitute for the audio, which is in our actual trailer.